Okay, we're all set.
Thank you, Joanne, and welcome everybody to the July 16, 2025 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We'll open with the roll call. Mr. Chiocchio?
Here.
Ms. Hofstetter?
Here.
Mr. Sylvain?
Here.
Mr. Haas? And Mr. Finaldi is here. Have we heard from Kevin Haas?
I'm waiting for a response. I texted him, but I haven't heard back yet.
Hmm.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, I watched the video of the July 2nd meeting, so I'm up to date on what happened with that, and I can participate in the actions today.
Great, Helen. Thank you very much. Okay, as we wait for Mr. Haas, I'm hoping he's going to chime in. I'll open with the Zoom intro. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches do sometimes occur. Please be patient if that happens. We will postpone the acceptance of the minutes of July 2nd, 2025. Those minutes are still being prepared. Let the record show that our next regular meeting is scheduled for August 6th, 2025. We have no new public hearings this evening, and we have no continuation of public hearings this evening. So we'll move right to old business for discussion and possible action. But before I do that, Joanne, anything from Kevin? You're muted.
Not yet.
All
I
right.
sent him a text telling him we needed him, and explained. I told him maybe he'll get. Go ahead. Maybe
Okay.
you could do the other thing, and we can.
Okay, we'll go to item 1 under old business for discussion and possible action. Number 1, 100 Mill Plain Road Investors LLC. Application for revised special exception, revised site plan approval for conversion of professional office space to medical office space for physical therapy and sports. Sections 5B, 2B, 17 in the CA80 zone, 100 Mill Plain Road, C14058. Special exception number 728. A draft resolution of approval was attached. And with that, I will turn it over to Allie.
Hi, everyone. Just going to jump in here. So for page 1 in the first whereas, you can see I made that change to the 1381 usable square feet for that change of use. I know there was a bit of confusion over the public hearing that Attorney Beecher had clarified. So I made that change there. And then jumping to page 3 and page 4, condition number 3 and condition number 9 deal with the site improvements. So 3 deals with work within the right of way, and number 9 deals with work within the right of way and also work within the site itself, including updated pavement markings and signage per Vera's letter. And then conditions 6, 7, and 8 are just the staff reports that the applicant has agreed to on the record. It's just a matter of getting those revisions in and getting those sign-offs done. It's pretty straightforward application. If anyone has any questions, let me know.
Does anyone have any questions for Allie at this time? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on this particular application for approval or denial.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval of the application.
Thank you. A motion's been made for approval of the resolution of approval with conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Sylvain, thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? The resolution of approval with conditions is approved. Will, can
I'm
we,
gonna try and call him right now, so I'm
right.
gonna,
yeah, I'd like to, again, commission members of the public, I'd like to just double check and try to get a full attendance of the regular members of the planning commission before we move on to our referrals. Just give us a minute here. Not sure where Mr. Haas is, but maybe he's trying to get in. Anything, Joe? No sign of him, Joe?
roll to voicemail. I left him a message telling him
Okay.
that, we were desperate for him and I explained why. So I
All right.
guess we just go ahead and see what we
Okay.
can do.
Okay, no problem. We'll move forward. Under referrals, number 1, 838 referral petition of Blasius Enterprises, Sawmill Road, A15004, for change of zone from IL40 to PND and PND to RMF6. The zoning commission public hearing is going to be on July 22nd, 2025. And again, my standard intro to an 838 referral before I turn it over to Waleed. Again, this is only a referral to the planning commission. It is not a public hearing. We do not hear testimony from experts. We do not allow the public to have input. We speak to our planning department experts, and we make a referral based on the information provided to us. I just wanted to make sure I got that on the record before we move forward. And with that, I believe, Waleed, you're going to be making the presentation, so I will turn it over to you.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. For the record,
evening.
my name is Waleed Al-Pakri, and I am the planning director here. Before I start, I would like to share my screen with you, so bear with me for a minute here.
You're all set.
I don't see the shared screen yet.
Yeah, bear with me here.
No problem.
A second. What about now?
Looks like we have something. There we go. Yes, sir.
I'm very proud of myself. I usually have issues sharing my screen.
Now we're good.
Okay, so I'm actually going to talk about the application. Before I start, I would like to mention what it is for. So we received an application for zoning map amendment from IL40, and a small portion of the piece of land is PND. PND is similar to what we have here as master plan. So, and the target zone is RMF6, which is a multi-family zoning district. I am going to actually go first over an overview of the site, how big it is, where it is located, and also give a lot of info about infrastructure, the POCD, and at the end, I'm going to explain, like any zoning map amendment, we have to review it and evaluate it based on certain criteria in our zoning regulations. My intent here is not to cover all the aspects. I will leave this at the end for discussion, but to give you most of the information needed to understand what the application is for and the implications. With that, I'm going to move to the second slide here. So overview here, if you look at the left-hand side, which would be my left-hand side, might be your right-hand side, you will see a survey of the piece of land we are talking about. We are talking about this piece of land, which is about 27 acres, give or take. In the bottom or close to the southern portion of it, there's about 116 feet for gas line easement. This small piece here that is zone P and D, and later on I will explain why it's zone P and D. Most of the land is IL40. If you look at the left-hand side, you will see all the neighbors, which is this area here, is what we call the reserve, which is one of the biggest development in the history of the city. It has 11 phases, and general density is about 8 units for each acre within the reserve. And also to the south here, to give you more context, there's what is known as the Point or the Crown Point development, which was actually phase 1 of the reserve. It has 14 buildings and about a total of 466 apartments. Moving on, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but just it's good to actually have an idea of what the PND or the reserve is. What you see here are all the phases of the reserve. In total, we are talking about, again, this changes because sometimes they ask for amending each phase. We're talking about a total of 2,164 units and a lot of non-residential uses. Phase 1, as I mentioned, is what is now known as the Point or the Crown Point development. This whole reserve started about 25 years ago. Before that, all the area you see here used to be IL40. So the change having gradually starting 2001 or so to shift most of the zoning in the area to different types of what I would call multifamily residential. However, when this was being done, smaller pieces, which I would call pockets, were left as residential. So that's what happened. I'm going to go over another slide here to show you what the BOCD says and what the regional plan. Regional plan is done by Westcott. And I know it's small, but you will get the idea. This piece of land, which I am actually pointing at, is the subject piece of land. It is designated as we speak as industrial. However, during the discussion for the POCD, when I say POCD, I mean the future land use map in the POCD. It was not clear what to do with this piece of land because for all intent and purposes, it should be residential, but they didn't want to change it at that time. And since we are talking about future land use map, I would like to emphasize the following. From a legal point of view in the state of Connecticut, future land use map usually are not meant to be lot by lot. What do I mean by this? It's not zoning. It's future vision. Usually a lot of cities will say it's for illustration. It's not mandatory because you would like to have some flexibility between the future land use map and zoning. The way this is done, it's not meant to be something that must be followed. It allows for a lot of flexibility. On the other hand of the slide, I'm showing the land use, the future one from Westcott. You will see when they did it, they actually differentiated between land that has infrastructure and land that doesn't have infrastructure. The piece of land that we're talking about is very close to infrastructure, meaning water, sewage, and existing public roads. That's why it was designated as a good candidate for future development. Moving on, it's important since we are discussing zoning amendment, to be aware of the existing zoning. As I mentioned before, existing zoning, which is shown here on the slide, is IL 40. What does this mean? It means as we speak. It's an industrial zone. So a lot of what you see here on the slide can be permitted as per right, or it can be done by special exception. A lot of it, if you look at it, would not be compatible with the existing situation. The existing situation being that it is fully built out as residential area. Moving on, I also would like to give you an idea, because it's very important for the city to have a good balance between different land uses. As we speak now, we have about 11% of our land uses as industrial. We have the majority, 72, as residential. However, just for you to know, most of residential is single family. We have only 7% multifamily of all the land we have. The land that we are talking about is about 27 acres. It's not going to be a huge reduction in the existing industrial uses, especially that the location now does not lend itself to very clean industrial use, because it can be really negative or have negative impact on the existing residential uses. When we talk about infrastructure, I have the slide here. The blue one is about existing municipal water. I don't know if you can see where the pointer is. This is a piece of land we're talking about. It's very, very close to existing water. To give you a little bit of history here, this project started about August last year, almost a year from now. There have been a lot of discussion between our engineering department, the applicant, and we are at a stage that engineering have give us confirmation that this piece of land can easily be serviced by municipal water. The same applies for sewer. You see that the sewage connection is actually touching the piece of land that we're talking about. I know it's small, but I'm actually pointing at it. So there wouldn't be any issues for hooking up or connecting to sewer services. Along the same line of infrastructure, for us, infrastructure doesn't mean just water and sewage. It means also police, fire, sidewalks, and extra, and so on and on. Right? So there are police stations close by. There are fire stations, but as you are aware, the city is looking at a new firehouse somewhere in this area, on the west side of the city. So the new, as well as the existing residential development, will have enough fire fighting capacity. For sidewalks, which also very important for safety, if you look at the slide here, you will see it ends at the property line. The goal is, once we have residential development, this section that doesn't have sidewalk is going to have a new one. This will be part of the condition for any future residential development. Moving on, it's also important to touch on the quality of life, which means schools, open spaces, and parks. The area we are talking about has open spaces very close by. You have the Lake Kenosha Park. You have the other one here, Farrington Woods. In terms of schools, there are schools close by, especially with the high school being built. However, maybe in the future, there might be a need to have a new elementary school, but we are not at this stage yet. One important aspect I will touch on, however, of course, after the presentation, I will open the floor for discussion in case you have any questions. The applicant submitted kind of a general study for future impact in terms of, traffic coming in and out, and I'm highlighting it for you here. So I'm not going to go over the detail. We can touch upon it later on, but here's what you need to know. There will be an increase, assuming the development, so the site is only developed for office space, comparing to a total of 294 dwelling units, there would be a total increase of 14% of how many turbs are generated. However, during the weekday morning and weekday afternoon, residential development, you see the minus, will have less turbs generated. One will be 125% turbs less, and another one during weekday afternoon would be minus 80 turbs generated. So yes, in total, there will be 14% increase, but during the peak hours, there will be less turbs coming in and out. So as I mentioned before, usually when we have an application for zoning map amendment, we have certain criteria or conditions that we look at. So I'm going to go from the top down. You will notice that some of it I already covered during the presentation. So in terms of suitability for uses, as mentioned before, residential use would be a better fit, taking into consideration how this section or portion of the city evolved over the years. And the same applies for compatibility. And in terms of city future demand, of course, we all know there's always a demand for housing. And it's going to continue to be for a while. In terms of impact on other land uses, as I mentioned before, this will take away from an existing 27-acre industrially zoned land. However, given the location and given the fact that it's a small reduction, this is not anticipated to have any negative impact on the future of the city. Specifically speaking, we are looking now at future lands to be zoned industrial outside of what we have now. Also, we have specific criteria for multifamily development that we need to evaluate. Number one, density and being compatible with the existing development. In terms of density, if they are to develop based on the zone being requested, which is RMF6, they can have maximum of 196 units. However, there's an option under RMF6 that if the applicant chooses to, they can apply for density incentives, and it will be special exception up to the Planning Commission to decide. In that case, the total number of units can be up to 294 units. However, that being said, and I will go back here to show you something that I should have mentioned. The site itself, if you look at the survey, most of it has either wetland or areas you cannot build on. So realistically speaking, where you can build is where I'm pointing at, which is about 5 to 6 acres. So even in the future, if the applicant is to apply for density incentives, they would not be able to have 294 units or so. In terms of accessibility, Sawmill is an existing improved public road, and the impact on it based on the future development, if it is to be residential, will not be much different from building an office space. What about utilities? I already covered this one. There's enough utilities in terms of water and sewage. What about the consideration for how the layout of the land? As I mentioned before, the layout as well as having wetland means that not the whole site could be improved or developed on, and we're talking about 5 to 6 acres maximum, where any future developer can utilize it for development. Environmental sensitivities, the 5 or 6 acres that are left wouldn't have any issues for future development. So what does this lead us to? It leads us to the following. Based on the context of the site we are talking about and the existing uses, the proposed zoning amendment to RMF6 would be more suitable and more compatible with the existing development compared to developing the site for any industrial space. With that, I come to the end of this overview. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, if you could take down, I can't see anybody, but there we go. Okay, thank you. No, we're good. Questions for Waleed at this time, commission members? I had one, did you revise your original report? Because I have the original and I thought it was going to be revised, but they both say June 20th, 2025 on it. Was there only one staff report, Waleed, or did you amend the original one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The original one was actually amended and only one section was added. It's the one at the end that talks about spot zoning, which is a good segue for me to touch on this application. This application, just to be clear, it's not spot zoning. And I know sometimes some people get it wrong. Spot zoning means that you introduce a new zone. It doesn't have to be, it can be a different name, but a new zone that have uses that do not exist at all in this area. To give you an idea, supposedly we have a total residential area. Forget about the names. They can be very different names. And all of a sudden, you introduce actually a heavy industrial use or something that doesn't belong. That's spot zoning. What we have, actually, we are doing the opposite of spot zoning. What we have, the spot zoning, which is IL40, that happened because the area changed over time to be residential, and this was left alone. So what I would say, that would be fixing a situation we have. This is from planning point of view.
Got it. Thank you.
Chairman,
Go ahead, Helen.
I have a question, well, couple, I think. So we're dwindling down the industrial zones. I mean, on the eastern side of Danbury, along Federal Road there, I think we had quite a few conversions over to commercial on that road there. And so we're at 11% according to your graphs. So I guess I'd like to get an idea of what we feel at this point is a good percentage for industrial, because that brings in money too. And I think I heard you say that you were looking for other industrial properties outside of this whole petition that and I imagine that could be to bring up the number of acres of industrial. So can you clarify that for me?
Absolutely. So let me unpack what you were talking about. Number one, you were talking about reducing the number of industrial area. You are absolutely right. This is what I mentioned. However, it's not significant whatsoever. And most importantly, decisions were made, and they were very conscious decisions, or maybe they were not. The decision that we're talking about is that you have some situation, especially on the west side of the city, where you have a lot, basically all residential areas, and you have pockets, if I may say, of industrial uses. You know what? The city has been lucky so far. You know why? Because most of them are being used, I'm talking about the odd industrial areas, mainly as office areas. However, nobody can guarantee what's going to happen in the future. Somebody might just sell the land and the new owner decides, hey, I would like to have open storage. I would like to have an industrial facility. We wouldn't be able to say no. So far, we are lucky, but we might not be lucky for long, especially with things happening and there's less demand for office spaces. That's number one. So what we are doing here, in essence, we are anticipating future issues, and we have an applicant, and we have been trying to work with them to have something that is more compatible and give us more assurance that whatever the future might be, it will be a compatible use. Moving on to the second part of your question. Yes, economic development and planning have been talking and discussing with internally, and reach out to different property owners. If some sites we believe are in a good location, they have infrastructure, we try to work out who might be future buyers to use it for industrial uses. So it's a lot of communication going on, And our goal is to have a balance between different uses. However, it's very important, I would say it's essential, that you have the uses where they should belong. Some of what we have now is located in areas that they shouldn't be in. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sylvain?
Chairman?
Yes.
More of a comment and an observation on top of what Helen said, because I think Helen hit my question on the head there. I was also noticing we've kind of had a trend of dwindling down our IL-40 a little bit, and especially on the quote unquote edge of the city. It's something to pay attention to. But I agree that this is an area, I think that is becoming more residential. So even though it may be on the edge of the city, it's also on the edge of a residential neighborhood at this point. The observation point is, I guess you would say that out of the 28.7 acres, only 5 or 6 acres of that is buildable. So that's why it's not really a huge loss of the IL-40. Understood. Okay. And I would reemphasize the point that, yes, I do think we should be looking for opportunities for more IL-40 in other areas so that we don't have loss of future economic growth, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvain. Mr. Kiokio?
Yeah, I agree with Helen and Perry, and my biggest concern is the loss of, and I'll quote Mr. Rotello a few meetings ago, the precious IL-40 that's in our city. And I understand your comments there, but in my mind, once we get rid of IL-40, we're never going to get it back. And there's a lot more areas where residential can go in the city. So I think giving up the IL-40 is a big concern to me. We talked about, there was discussion about, office space here, and that's kind of what you compared it to. And there's been a lot of discussions about office space, and they're not really kind of in vogue these days, which I understand. So, but there's a lot of other uses in the industrial space that would fit in this area, and one which I think would be fine for this would be industrial condos or outdoor storage, which is in great demand these days. I hear it all the time that people and small contractors are looking for space, and quite honestly, this would be a good spot for it. It's on the edge of town. The way we have our regulations for that, it's tucked back in the property. It's well hidden with fencing. So I think one of those would be an opportunity for something that's in demand there. And we talked about strain on city services, the water and sewer and other services, fire, police, EMS. Industrial is much less for a strain on city services. So I think that is kind of a positive as well to keep it as IL-40. As far as traffic, once again, we're in that area. We've been talking about this for a long while, heading into Mill Plain Road, which is kind of where all of these folks would go, down to Caroluzzi's and the restaurants down there. So we're just going to put additional traffic. I know you showed fairly minimal traffic in the peak hours compared to an office. Is less in the morning, but during the day it's actually higher. So we know that an office probably is not going to go there. Other industrial uses will be less pretty much throughout the day, I would think there. So I just have a lot of concerns with getting rid of the IL-40 at this time. I'm not convinced at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Kiokio. Yeah, my comments are, this is an interesting referral, because it brings forth two conflicting needs here in the city of Danbury. On one hand, we need to preserve our inventory of IL-40 zoned land, and that's been discussed. But we also need to increase our supply of rental units. And I was trying to remember the statistics that Francisco Gomes of FHI mentioned during the Plan of Conservation and Development when we were putting that together. But then I remembered that the statistics he referred to were actually in another report that the city had done. It was the City of Danbury 2022 Affordable Housing Plan. I think Mr. Sylvain was on that particular committee. I think you represented planning on that particular committee. And I think that plan made a very strong case or provided significant documentation to suggest that the city is very undersupplied with regard to rental units. So I pulled that report. Now, granted, it was 2022, but it wasn't that long ago. And I'll try to be brief. Here's some of the things it says. One of the inclusions in that report was what's called a gap analysis. And I'll read as quickly as I can. The housing gap analysis compares existing housing supply and cost relative to housing need and demand as established by Danbury's population size, number of households, household size, and household income. The gap analysis is comprised of three elements: a future demand analysis, ownership gap analysis, and renter housing gap analysis. The gap refers to the number of housing units needed at specific price points to meet need. And I'll cut forward to that now. Given that this particular zone change request, I believe is for apartments, I go right to the rental housing gap analysis portion of that report. And again, I'll attempt to be brief. Danbury has a shortage, 2,444 fewer than demand, of rental units affordable to households earning less than 30% of the AMI, average monthly income. Danbury also has a lack of supply of rental units, 1,936 fewer than potential demand, that are within the upper affordability ranges of households earning 100% or more of AMI. The lack of higher priced rental units that are within the affordability range of upper income households results in additional demand for lower cost units, driving up rental costs of units affordable to households earning 30 to 100% of AMI. What does all that mean? The middle is getting squeezed with regard to the rental market. And again, I'll just read one more thing. The analysis suggests that there is a clear need for rental housing that is affordable to very low income households. Also, the development of additional rental housing affordable to upper income households may free up rental units that are affordable, et cetera, et cetera. So long story short, we have a fairly comprehensive study that makes the case that we have a significant shortage of rental units, somewhere around 5,000. I guess you could debate that accuracy of it, but that's what it was. So, but if you believe in the validity of this report, you have to say to yourself, okay, if that's true, that we need this many rental units, where are we going to put them? What would be the best place for them? And, you know, believe me, I lived on Sawmill Road for a year. I lived in Crown Point while they built my condo. I'm actually sitting in Rivington right now, so I'm very familiar with this part of town and all aspects of it. And it's true that this particular piece is completely surrounded by the PND residential zone, again, which I am in right now. It is in close proximity to I-84, you know, access to sewer, access to water. It will help us with regard to affordable housing units in 830G. It will help us get over that magic number of 10%. And if we fall below that, that creates a whole host of issues, which I won't get into right now. And of course, the 2022 Affordable Housing Plan clearly demonstrates that we have too low of a supply of rental units at basically every income level. So again, the question that we're all asking ourselves is very simple. Does the need for additional rental units and more affordable units outweigh the incremental loss in the IL-40 land? That's the question. And so at the present time, I'm going to go along with with that conclusion. I'm going to weigh on that side that we do need these additional rental units. And but having said that, I want to make sure I get this on the record, because as I mentioned, I guess I'm the West Side representative of the Planning Commission, and there was some talk about traffic. And again, having lived on Sawmill and living in Rivington, the issue of traffic is real, and it has to be addressed at some level soon, or we're going to hit a tipping point where it's going to make the West Side undesirable because you just can't get east. I did pull the traffic report. I think the Salem piece, but that was based on 2019 traffic patterns. I think it was somewhere around 15,000 vehicle trips a day on Mill Plain Road. And Mill Plain Road presents a very interesting problem, or issue rather, for Danbury, because on one hand, what we control is land use and development along Mill Plain Road, but we don't control the road itself. It's a state road. We don't even control, as far as I know, signalization along Mill Plain Road. We look at various turn lanes and things like that, but that's it. So we've got this issue where we're controlling land use and development along a road we don't control. And a lot of us remember when Route 7 going to New Milford was one lane in both directions. Route 7 going to Ridgefield was one lane in both directions. Newtown Road was one lane in both directions. Luckily, in my lifetime, all those have been fixed. But when Mill Plain Road will get fixed, I don't know, or if it will get fixed. But it's a real issue. And I know that the answer, which is it's a state road. Why should the city of Danbury do a study on that road when we don't control it? We couldn't widen it if we want to. We don't have the authority. So that has to be addressed. And I wanted to make sure to get that on the record. But for this particular application, you know, I've got this report that provides significant documentation that there's an undersupply of rental units at every income level. And for that reason, and for the other reasons mentioned, I'm going to, I'll be in favor of this change, but we'll be looking carefully at everything that adds traffic to Mill Plain in the future. That's where I am. Please.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I just have a few more comments based on kind of what you said as well, and a few other things I just thought about. So this parcel is about 1% of the IL-40, 27 acres out of the 2,000, excess 2,000 acres. So 1% of the IL-40 property would be going away. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking only 11%, you know, you're going down to 10%. You know, this IL-40 is compatible with that area. Residential is compatible with that area, obviously. If you look at the map, there's IL-40 surrounding this PND. On each side of it, there's pieces of IL-40. And industrial is allowed in the PND as well. So it is compatible there. You talked about the rental units and affordable housing. We don't really know for sure, and there's no guarantee that they will put in affordable housing in this development. We're not really sure. There's no guarantee to do that. I had talked about city services before. The one I'm really concerned about is the water capacity. You all recall last year there was some water restrictions on the west side, and I know there's been some work done out there, but I'm just wondering whether to keep adding additional units out there is going to affect the water capacity. I just don't. I'm just not sure there, and it would be great to really understand that. And then in regards to the study from last couple years ago that you talked about in the deficit of housing there, that's a lot of housing. To almost 2,500 of lower income and about 2,000 of upper income. So you're talking about almost 5,000 units, which is a lot that we need for Danbury. And where are those going to go? 200 units here or so, not going to make a huge dent there. But I don't know where Danbury could put all those units. The only thing I could think of is, and probably where would be most appropriate is kind of the downtown area where, and I know we've made strides to try to do this, but you kind of got to go up and get some taller buildings with residential downtown would be the most appropriate, I would think. So there's other areas where we can get additional housing to help that shortage. And so I just really struggle with this. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I just wanted to read one thing from, I guess this is the letter from Collins Hannafin to Ted Haddad, the zoning commission, is dated May 21st, 2025. Now, I can't guarantee I have this exactly right, so I'll just read what is here. I'm on page 2 in the middle of it. A maximum of 195 units would be permitted on this property without using the incentive housing option for statutory affordable housing, 1 per 6,000 square feet of land area. If the incentive housing option is approved by the Planning Commission, then a maximum would be 294 units, 1 per 4,000 square feet of land, and under the IHO, a minimum of 49 apartments must be statutory affordable housing units. Our analysis is that the gross number of units will be well under the maximum allowed by formula due to topography and wetlands and other site considerations. So I think that a portion of these apartments must be affordable if they want the incentive housing option. And again, I'm going down, I'm skipping around a little bit. The housing plan addresses and promotes the need for both affordable housing and more statutory deed restricted affordable housing units. So I think some of them have to be, but I can't get, Waleed, can you weigh in on this?
Well, they have to be if they want to do more than the 196, right?
I believe that's
correct.
I'm not
So
clear.
if they only do the 196, they don't have to.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct, yes. So if you get the zoning approved to be what it is actually being asked for, they can have up to maximum 196 units. However, which that's my understanding that what the intent is, if you would like to have more units, you will have to go back to the Planning Commission, assuming the zoning amendment is approved, to ask for incentives, which will take it up to a maximum of 294 units. In that case, a percentage of the difference will have to be dedicated as affordable housing.
Okay, but if they don't get the incentive housing option, they don't have to put anything as affordable.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, Marcus, so there's your answer there, Bob. It's only if they get the IHO. All right.
Yep. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sorry to be a pest. Just I forgot one last point. Sorry.
Please.
Doing my Columbo imitation here. Yeah, the traffic was one that you had mentioned, and you're correct. I mean, we all know the traffic is bad there. Mill Plain Road is a state road. We can't do anything about it. And you said there's going to be a tipping point here of when do we stop to development and keep making it worse. And, you know, honestly, I mean, I would be the adult in the room and just say, now's the time. Now's the tipping point. We really need to hold off until something can be done with that. And I know that given it's a state road, any kind of improvement that we would see, I wouldn't see in my lifetime. It'd probably be 20, 30 years before anything could really be done with that, given that how the state works and all the process and studies, all of that need to be done. So, I mean, I guess now is the time would be my answer. Thanks.
I'll think of that comment, Bob, next time I'm on Mill Plain, sitting in bumper to bumper traffic, cursing under my breath. Actually, maybe not even under my breath. Maybe it'll be out loud. I don't know. But I don't know that anybody on this call has sat in more traffic than I have on Mill Plain or 84 going east toward downtown. So thank you again for that comment.
Yep.
All right. I'm sorry, Bob. Anything else?
No, I'm done.
Anything else, commission members? Anybody else want to weigh in or talk about this? It's an interesting case, interesting referral. If not, we're going to need, commission members, a motion for a positive or negative referral. And before we go there, because we may have people voting different ways, I just want to remind you of the sort of odd voting rules here. Now, we have 4 people voting tonight. So here's the voting scenarios. If somebody makes a motion for a positive referral, and it just needs a simple majority, and that's it. If it's a tie, that's a negative referral. Or if it's less than a tie, it's a negative referral. Now, if somebody makes a negative referral, you need a clear majority to pass the negative referral. If there's a tie, it's a no on a negative referral. That doesn't automatically make it a positive referral. So then what we have to do, which is a little odd, is let that motion die on the vine, and then somebody has to make a motion for a positive referral, and then that has to get voted down. I'm sorry, this is screwy. I know this is from, I think Dan Casagrande sent me this year. 2009 is what I'm reading from, but it's the way it is. So if somebody would make a motion for positive or negative referral, and let's see what happens. And I will take a roll call vote rather than a voice vote to try to keep this straight. So anyone?
Mr. Chairman,
Please, Bob.
I'll make a motion for a negative referral.
Okay.
Go the opposite ways we normally do.
Okay. For the reasons you stated in your
For the reasons, all of my comments, yes.
Okay. A motion has been made for a negative referral. Will somebody second that motion?
I'll
Helen
second
will second. Oh, thank you, Helen. Okay.
the
so
same
now-
reasons that Bob made it.
Okay. So again, we're going to take a vote on a negative referral. If it's a majority, then we're all set. If it's a tie, it defeats the motion, but the petition is still active. So then somebody has to make a positive referral. So thanks so much, Bob, for making that negative referral. It makes our lives much more complicated. But anyway, okay.
I didn't have anything else to do tonight.
All right. So a motion has been made and seconded for a negative referral. So if you vote yes, you're voting yes for a negative referral. If you vote no, you're voting no for a negative referral. But that doesn't make it a positive referral. Okay, everybody, I got that? Okay. I'm going to now take a roll call vote for a negative referral. Mr. Chiocchio.
Yes.
Ms. Hofstadter.
Yes,
Mr. Sylvain.
No.
And The chairman Finaldi votes no, so we have a tie. Let me make sure I got this right. The motion is defeated, but the petition is still active because the commission has simply denied the denial. Okay. Someone now, I'm going to ask my fellow commission members, it doesn't matter how you vote, somebody has to make a motion for a positive referral, and we need a second to get this vote finalized.
I'll make a motion for a positive referral.
Okay, Mr. Sylvain has made a motion for a positive referral. I will need a second.
Second,
Remember, thank you, Bob. Okay. Now, one more time with a lot of feeling. A positive referral is just what it sounds like. You can vote yes or no. And a tie defeats the motion. Okay. A motion has been made and seconded for a positive referral. Mr. Kiokio,
no,
Ms. Hofstadter,
Wait a minute. This is a motion for a positive referral. So
yes.
I say no.
Okay. Mr. Sylvain
Yes.
and Mr. Finaldi votes yes. It is a tie, which means the motion is defeated. That's why I didn't want to have 4 members voting tonight, but what am I going to do? So that's it. The motion required a clear majority of the seated members to pass. A tie vote or a negative vote defeats the motion. That's it. So this gets a negative referral to zoning.
Okay. So we'll give that to them and
Yep.
see what they do with it.
It's all back to the zoning commission now. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. A very thorough discussion. And I think a lot of the important points that the planning zoning commission has to consider were brought up, and I hope they consider them. So thanks, everybody, for your thoughtful comments on this particular referral. Okay. We have one other 8-3A referral. Petition of MSM 44 Old Ridgeberry Road LLC, 44 Old Ridgeberry Road C16006 for change of zone from RMF4 to RO. Zoning Commission public hearing is scheduled for July 22nd, 2025. And Waleed, back to you.
Sure, give me a minute here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
yes,
Okay, great. Okay, so we have an application for a zoning amendment. It's a building that is already on, but has been built like more than 20, actually more, since the 80s. If I'm not mistaken here, it's, as we speak, and I'm gonna give you more background, it's zone RMF4, and the applicant is applying to zone it to RO. RO means residential office. I'm sure you haven't seen it much. It has been a zone in place for a while, but as far as I know, there are about a couple of different locations that have that zone. When the RO zone was actually envisioned, it was meant to be a transition between residential and more heavier uses. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. So the site we're talking about here, it's a corner lot, and it's at the intersection of Old Ridgeberry Road and Briar Ridge Road, and it had a building as we speak here. It's 4-story. The site is about 8 acres, and the building is a concrete building, and the building itself is about 35, say 120 square feet or so. So if you look at the slide here to the right, you will see it's zoned as we speak, RMF4, which is multifamily. The area around it has a mix of different uses. And because of that, and I'll go back, sorry, the slide, you see it's a mix of different uses. You have IL40 on one corner, another IL40, you have to the east RM4, you have RA40. It's just a mix that I was not dissimilar from the situation we had on the previous application, where things were done when the reserve was being envisioned. without just anticipating future issues. So what happened is about 2010 or 2011, the owners of the building at that time wanted to convert it all into residential. So it used to be IL 40. It was converted back in 2010 into residential. However, the owners at that time never acted on it. So it remained as RMF 40, even though it's an office space. And as we know, existing uses became non-conforming. What does this mean? You can continue to have the exact same uses. You cannot expand. You cannot have more offices because it's actually residential. So for the last 15 years, it has been quite a situation. So giving you a little bit of background. So if you look at the future land use map here, you will see that that site, which is here, dark gray, is meant for medium to high density residential just because this was the existing situation. However, in the POCD, this designation here, which again, it's not a requirement, it's not meant to be lot by lot, it's meant to be more like general guidance. But however, in the POCD, that same designation, which is medium to high density residential, allows for offices because it's not meant specifically for residential. It can include other complementary uses. So on the slide we have here, we have the current zoning and what the applicant is proposing. As I mentioned before, as we speak, it is zoned residential, even though it's just an office space and medical clinics. The one being proposed is an RO residential office. The advantage of an RO residential office, it can allow for residential or office spaces, which is very important because immediately to the east, and I'm going to go back here. If you look at where I'm actually pointing, this whole area to the east has a condominium of 80 units. So having either office or residential would be more of a transition because you don't want to have it as industrial that might over time end up being very incompatible. So going back here, again, the RO is a perfect transition zone to allow for the building as it is to be offices or residential because the situation that the owners have is very difficult. They can actually, anytime they need to do any change, they have to, they don't have an ability because the situation being what it is, they have a status of non-conforming. So in terms of what criteria we look at, again, I have the same criteria I had in the previous presentation. I don't need to go over all of them because the zoning as we speak is already multifamily. So when the decision was made to have this site rezoned to RMF4, I'm not sure how the criteria were evaluated back then, but it's a multifamily site as we speak. So to conclude, the new zoning will actually be ideal for the situation we have because the building is not going to go anywhere and it will give us assurance that the site will never be used as industrial site. However, it can accommodate either housing or office spaces. With that, I actually come to the end of this quick overview. I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Commission members, anything for Waleed? Go ahead, Bob.
The RO district, I know is either limited or non-existing in Danbury. I looked on the zoning map, I couldn't find any parcels that were RO. Are there any that are currently
Excuse
RO?
me, there are four.
There are 4 sites, mainly
sites.
on Bacchus.
Mary Brook Road.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
And
Okay,
if you look at them, you will see why they were chosen. They actually serve as a buffer between the residential to the back and other uses, similar to the situation we have.
yeah, okay. So this, the current building that's there is used as office space?
That's a very good question. Unfortunately, they have a lot of vacancy.
Yeah,
And
okay.
a lot-
But
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
it is currently used as an office, even though it might mostly be vacant?
Yes, when I say office, it also includes medical offices. So office and medical, like in our zoning regulation, a medical clinic is considered medical office. So it's between regular offices and medical offices.
Great, okay. Just, I actually used to work in that building a while back. So I know it well. Used to overlook the pond in the back. So it could continue as an office or medical building currently, but it can't expand anything, right? If you, or could it change the configuration inside, I guess?
This is where it gets to be very complex because it's legally non-conforming, because the zoning they have, as we mentioned, is residential. So say if they have vacant office, they would like to use it for any other thing, like another office, they can't. They have to actually, they are non-conforming. So in a way, their hands are tied.
Okay, got it. Okay. And then, so if, could you, it doesn't seem like the building's gonna go away. I doubt they're gonna knock it down, but maybe they would, I don't know. But in addition to that office building, would you be able to build housing on that site?
I don't, we never, the applicant never discussed this ability. What might happen, they might turn, if they choose to, some of the vacant spaces into apartment or dwelling unit, like small apartment. Adding an extra one, we'll have to look at the parking calculations, the requirements, how many parking spaces. So we never talked about this one. It was mainly about using the existing building.
So, so there could be conversion to apartments there.
They could, but there's basically a percentage in the zoning ordinance in that zoning district. And even if they want to go and come back, assuming the zoning amendment is approved, any medical clinic is a special exception. So they have to come back to the planning commission, ask for a special exception just to use existing space for medical offices.
Okay.
And I know it's very complicated. It shouldn't be that medical offices are a special exception.
Yeah, I'm fine with medical office. So I'm just looking at the regulations for the uses. I could see one family dwelling, two family dwelling, which I doubt they would probably do here. I don't see apartment. So how if you wanted to convert that to apartment, part of it maybe, how would that fit in? I don't see apartments here. It just says one family dwelling and two family dwelling.
So what you were talking about, and I know are you looking under the special exception or the permitted?
Well, the permitted uses are a one family dwelling or two family dwelling. Special exceptions are, I don't see anything about residential. It just talks about offices, medical, banking, art gallery, museum, optician, professional office, studios.
Okay, so I remember now that they might, if they choose to, they might ask for a variance at some point if they choose to, but the main goal for now is medical offices.
Yeah, okay.
But again, from our point of view as a city, we don't want to open the gate for future industrial usage on the site, because that will be detrimental to the neighbor to the east, which is the 80+ units.
Okay, I mean, I would be, pretty happy with the medical office or additional office there, but that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions for Waleed at this time, commission members? If not, I'll entertain a either positive or negative referral, a motion rather, for an either positive or negative referral.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion for a positive referral.
Motion made for a positive referral, I guess for the reasons shown in Waleed's report, I guess would be the
That's
reason.
correct, yes.
And do I hear a second, commission members?
I'll second.
Second, Helen. Is there any further discussion? Again, I'll take a voice vote on this one. A yes is for a positive referral. No is for not a positive referral. All in favor of a positive referral, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah, good. I got lucky. This one got a positive referral. So we're all squared away on this one and screw that one up. That's good to hear. Okay, commission members, looking at the agenda, nothing under new business or correspondence or other matters for discussion and possible actions. A few things for reference only you could take a look at. And unless Ally or anyone else, I am missing anything, I think we're ready to adjourn. Unless you guys want to discuss traffic on Mill Plain Road a little bit more, we can always.
I'll make a
Motion.
motion to adjourn.
On that note, Helen made a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kyokyo. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you, folks.
Good work, everyone.
Thank you very much. Good discussion. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
you.
Good night,
Good night,
everybody.
Thank you. Have a
Good
good
night.
night.